I've found a suitable replacement. This body should last me a few days before they find me. I'll explain who they are in due time, but for now, let's pick up where I left off. After I finally said goodbye to my original body, I began to practice my body-stealing powers. Entering a body was the easy part. However, I discovered many things about my capabilities. I could enter any body I wanted. All I had to do was touch the person. How long I could stay was another thing. Those with a strong mental fortitude, like the police, could kick me out almost instantly. Those people were rare, though. Most people were easy to overpower, and I could take control for as long as I wanted. Exiting the body was a little trickier. For those with weaker willpower, I had to force them to want their body back in order to get out. Physical pain was usually enough to do it. I had to want out as well, though. I could damage a weaker person's body as much as I wanted, but if I didn't want out, then they wouldn't get their body back. It would be risky to take the body of someone who didn't value their life because I may have to kill them in order to exit the body. For those wondering if I can take over the body of an animal, I certainly tried. Most animals avoid me like the plague, though. Birds don't seem to mind me, but everything else runs at first sight. I was able to pet a dog who trapped itself in its doghouse, but I wasn't given control of its body. I think it must be a compatibility thing. The whole time I was learning to use my abilities, I found something a bit odd. Not once did I ever run into another dead person. If I'm a ghost, shouldn't I be able to see other ghosts? Maybe it doesn't work like that, though. I couldn't possibly be the only person like this, though. Could I? Regardless, once I began to get the hang of my abilities, I began to seek a proper host. I could have searched for someone younger with an undeveloped personality, but I really didn't want to go through the younger years of my life again. I wanted someone basically like me. A loner. They needed to have a decent job, though, and if they were a little more attractive than my original body, then who am I to complain? It took a while, but eventually I found the perfect body. He was about the same age as I had been when I died. Despite his young age, he had climbed his way up to a managerial position at a factory. Behind the scenes, he was quite lonely. He had poured everything into his job. I never saw him talk to any family, and he never had any friends over to his home. As far as looks go, he's no Brad Pitt, but I don't think he would have a problem attracting the opposite sex. I watched him for a while before taking over. It was important for me to at least learn how to properly do his job. I had never been a manager before. He was a business-only sort of person at work, so I wouldn't have to worry too much about his work relations. After I felt I had learned enough, I stole his body. It really was a perfect match. When I was in his body, it was like I was in my own again. He didn't try to fight or push me out either. I decided I wasn't going to waste his life doing nothing like I had the last one. I kept his job, of course, but I started becoming more social. I went to bars, clubs, and other social events. I even managed to bring a few girls back to my new home from time to time. Before I knew it, I had been in my new body for an entire year. I had almost forgotten that I even had a previous life. Everything seemed to be going perfect, but of course good things can't last forever, can they? I noticed someone who had begun to follow me. It was a black car with heavily tinted windows. Wherever I went, that car always seemed to be there. I tried to get his license plate, but it never seemed to get close enough for me to see it. I tried reporting it to the police, but they said they couldn't do anything unless I had evidence I was being stalked. They sent a patrol car through my neighborhood, but that was all. The car was obviously gone by the time the police showed up, though. It ended as quickly as it began. After about 2 weeks of the car stalking me, it just disappeared. Perhaps I've just been overly paranoid after all. I resumed my new life as if nothing had ever happened. That was a mistake. I woke up a few nights later to find myself surrounded by at least 5 hooded figures. Before I had time to react, a knife was plunged into my chest. Blood began to spew from the chest as I felt the life fading from me. I was able to eject myself from the body just before my host took his last breath. After I left the body, the figures turned to face my ghost self. Could they see me? The one who had plunged the knife into me approached me. Once he was close to me, he began to kneel and then held out his hand. I wasn't sure what to do, so I ran. For whatever reason, they didn't seem to chase me. I ran for several miles before I even thought of stopping. I found an old rundown house and I let myself in. I sat down on the floor and tried to process what had just happened. Before I got the chance, a voice spoke. "Rough night, huh?" In front of me was the god who had given me my powers. Rough night? I was just killed. Again, I said angrily. "Well, it wasn't really you, it was the body you stole. I probably should have told you about them, though." "Them? You know who they are?" "Well, yeah, I know who everyone is. Those people are special, though. They're a part of a cult that worships me. It's kind of funny. They think you are their savior." "What about this is funny? If they think I'm their savior, then why the hell did they just put a knife in my chest?" "It's simple, really. They just don't think it was the right body for you. They are a bit crazy, but they've always been loyal to me. So I rewarded them by helping them find you." "Why would you do that? I don't even want to be a part of this," I shouted. "Because this is the most fun I've had in years. I mean, come on. Doesn't being the savior of a cult sound a little cool?" "I don't want to be in a cult. I just want to live a normal life again." "I promised you a new life. I didn't promise you a normal one. If you don't want to be in a cult, you should really start moving. They're almost here." As he finished saying this, I noticed the headlights come up from the street. I didn't give it a second thought. I ran again. I managed to make it to a busy stoplight. I took over a driver and I drove as far as I possibly could. I swapped from body to body on my trip. I didn't want to take anyone too far away from their life since I wouldn't be keeping any of those bodies. I'm currently in a small town on the East Coast. I think I might try to catch a flight to another country soon. I think they will find me eventually no matter what, but it could at least buy me some time to figure out what I should do. I've become part of a game for a god, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't think he's going to let me into any sort of afterlife anytime soon. So it seems I have 2 options. 1, keep running. 2, become the savior of a cult. Who would have known my life after death would have been so much more interesting?